Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Russian Ark. This is a 2002 fantasy slash mystery by Alexander Sokurov. It's a Russian movie. I have no idea who any of the actors are because they're all Russian. I have no idea who the director is. He's also Russian. So I have no backstory to see who these people are, what they were involved in. I have no backstory because I don't know the Russian movie scene, right? But what I do know is that this was the first movie to have been shot in one take. If you don't know how impressive that is, I want you to pause this and look up how difficult one-shot takes are, or long shots. Long story short, they're really difficult. And this is one of the few movies where the whole movie is one shot because it's extremely difficult to shoot this. And this was done a long time ago. This was a trendsetter, not really a trendsetter, it's not very popular, but anyway. So it starts off with the camera acting as a person slash being slash entity that's moving around and looking at people. It implies that the person is from a certain time period and has traveled backwards somehow because the entity knows some things that the other people didn't, such as, oh, this clothing looks weird. So it knows something and it comes from a time period. So the first area is a play or production of some kind being performed. It's hard to tell what era because they're in old outfits, so it could be the modern era, but it turns out it is the past. So we're traveling through what my pea-brain identifies as the Sistine Chapel. This is the actual name of the place. It is a massive museum, I think. So we move next into an art gallery and we discover that the guy we are following is European. By the way, there is a guy leading us around. He's like showing us the museum. He's talking about the paintings. And we also learn in the movie, this European and the cameraman is visible if need be. Otherwise, no one can hear or see us. Us as in us being the viewer and the cameraman and the European being also a person. So we're viewers, basically. And we're going to jump to the modern era and then back to the Victorian era. I think it's very old. It's like a very, very, very old time period. So we're jumping between these two times. The European talks to a man and then a woman, and they're all looking at painting and they're talking about it. Then they go back to Victorian again. They go back to modern, and it's some guy breaking slash building slash repairing frames. And I can't really follow the story that well up to this point. But in the Victorian era again, a woman goes out into the snow, which is important because we can see what the weather is like during this whole thing. And there's also an apology ceremony because things were destroyed. Listen, it's in Russian. Give me a break, all right? Back in the modern times, a few sophisticated-looking men talk about restoring and maintaining art that's busy aging, right? Finally, back in the Victorian time again, there's some marching happening, and one of the girls in the next room look right into the camera, I think. So I'm not sure if that's intentional or if it's a mistake, but I definitely see her looking into the camera, okay? And then we follow people going into a dinner, and then a fancy party. Now, I think this fancy party is the peak of this movie, and I'll explain now. The dancing looks absolutely ridiculous, but this was before that head spinny shit. This is still the Victorian era, okay? Give them a break. It shows the musicians, and earlier I thought to myself, these guys aren't even playing in time. I can't believe they had to edit in like the playing, but I think the version I was watching had like a little bit of an audio delay because I was starting to recognize, oh, they just played that. Or like it was just a little bit out, so I think they're all playing real music, which is even more impressive. The European dances with someone else, and they make some mistakes and dances out of time. And I think this is also really cool, because I don't think this was intentional, and I think he saved it by saying, oh, I've forgotten everything, oh, look at me. And if that's actually improvised, then he saved everything, and he covered up his mistake, which is so genius if that's true. But I don't know much about this, so I'm just going off of what I'm seeing, you know. The performances and the dances all conclude, and the camera says to the European, yo, let's get the fuck out of here, please. But the European decides to stay for some reason, and then the camera follows everyone as they leave the party, and the camera turns and walks through a soul river of some kind, and then it fades out and the movie is done. This is all in one shot, by the way. It travels between eras because it walks through doorways, and then so let's say the European is leading you. Door 1, you open the door, you follow him, modern era. You turn right, another door, back to Victorian. It's phenomenal. Let me not understate how incredible this is. Filming an entire movie in one shot with no cuts. Everyone's lines memorized and executed perfectly. Everyone in their places, and all sequences done perfectly. Not too fast, not too slow. The pacing has to be right. The camera can't make any mistakes either. Like, everything has to be in frame. There's no shaking. There's no, everything falling into place without any help in post is incredible. Takes and cuts are the easiest way to do 100 takes of something and pick the best one in the editing process and move on to another scene. You know, let's say it's two people talking. One guy would do all of his lines 10 times each. Another guy would do all of his lines 10 times each, and they would cut it together in post, right? That's how they usually do it. But one movie in one take that's actually great to watch is brilliant. It's just brilliant. The shots are clever and executed so well. So let's say there are a lot of group dancing and timed coordination. Group dancing, by the way, everyone has to do the same thing all the time. The coordination with the music, they have to be on time with the music. The music has to be played without any mistake. And these guys are so smart, they focus on the musicians for a minute and then they pan back to the dancers, so everyone has time to get into position when they're not in frame. They don't just focus on a massive room for 30 minutes. They look around. I actually wrote that down here and I said, it doesn't show everyone at the same time, right? It gives them time to... No, the last shot is a massive hallway scene with probably 100 actors in frame at the same time. That's got to be the best cinematography I've ever seen. Ever. So you might be saying to me, oh, the shots are so good, it's the perfect movie, right? No, it's not perfect. I just wish there was a story to follow, or an easier story to follow, or at least characters to follow through the time jumps, I know parts are just flashbacks and summaries of historical events. He's looking at paintings and explaining the events that happened, and then you walk through a door, you see it in front of your own eyes, For example, in the modern timeline, follow the same characters as they show off art in the future, but later discover during the frame cleaning scene that the art is aging and losing value, so they need to work to restore it in the final scenes, But instead, it's just different people doing different things at different times, and you have to kind of combine them in your head as some kind of timeline, which I did. That's my interpretation, but I would have liked a more linear timeline. But that's just an example. Who am I? I'm just a guy watching. That's just what I would have liked, I didn't notice any outstanding music apart from the stuff at the end, maybe some stuff was added in post, but everything was generally fine except for the plot I mentioned, and the one girl looking into the camera. I'll have to look that up, but yeah, it's one small mistake, So with all of that being said, I give this movie a 9 out of 10. It's all the best movies that have a tiny flaw, The cinematography is probably, it's got to be one of the best filmed movies I've ever seen, right? Let's just give it that. Number one, on the top of my list, number one, right? But it lacked that final nail, the story that grips me, It was hard to follow because it was essentially just random moments put together, in my opinion. But in my defense, it was Russian. Maybe if I'm a Russian, I would look at this and be like, yeah, this is the best movie, hands down. But, the fact that I haven't heard of this movie until I looked into long shots makes me believe I might be right. If you have it somewhere, I don't think you'd have it, but maybe if you have it on some streaming service somewhere, give it a look. Give it a watch. It is hella impressive. So yeah, I recorded this after my Sucker Punch video, and I actually forgot to mention that I think early in the take, I was swatting away a notification, a notification which says update now, and I'm like, no, I don't think I will. And then I think 3/4 into the take, it restarted in front of my very eyes. I was like, but I couldn't save. It was already restarting. So I was like, no. Yeah, I couldn't do anything, so I was kind of bummed, but then I did it again and it was fine. So yeah, I know, calling out another video, which you should watch, by the way. Link in the description. I'm not linking it in the description. That's so much effort. I'm probably gonna forget that I put this in making the description, and I'm not gonna put it in anyway. So yeah, it should be on my channel. I don't know when you're watching this, but it should be right underneath it in my timeline. You know. Anyway, thank you and have a lovely day. Bye.